I wanted to talk about the power of music in consuming it and also creating it, but especially consuming it. So I found myself just a couple days ago, wasn't really last week, but I was just not having a good day, and in the morning I'd gotten to school a little early, and I wasn't putting on music specifically like to brighten my mood or anything like that. I rarely ever do that anymore, which is what this is kind of about. But I don't remember. I wish I could remember what I put on. I wish I could remember the mood I was in that wasn't so great, but I just really don't remember. But I just like really perked up, and then it reminded me that like, oh yeah, that happens. Like, music can do that. I kind of forgot about that, which is so crazy. If you kind of knew more of my history, I guess, and like my connection with music, especially growing up, especially as a teen in high school, music just was always so powerful to me. And it wasn't necessarily the first art form I fell in love with. I think reading was, like, reading people's written word, like that was a form of escapism for me early on, before I really had my own sense of music and what I liked, and discovered my own stuff, and just kind of really was super passionate about music. It definitely was reading first. It was books and literature. But about grade 8, you know, I kind of started to carve out my own sense of style with music, what I like and what I don't like. But especially I just found it to be such a powerful tool, a powerful art form, something just that I consumed all the time. Later on, I'd like to talk about anxiety more, because I realize now, just in the past like 2 years, that in high school I was managing my anxiety through music, and I didn't realize it, because it was just like almost a mindfulness activity, or almost like meditative. I would just go home and I would just lay on my bed and listen to music for hours, and that was it, and I didn't focus on anything else. Anyway, it was just a powerful thing that it really, I've known for a long time, and always recognized this. It's not like I forgot really that, oh yeah, music can help me change my mood. Like, I've known that, but I haven't been using it, not like consciously, purposefully using it to change my mood. I still consume music often enough, just not like I used to, not purposely in the same way. I still consume it as like a financial or consumer, like or capitalist consumer, whatever you want to call it. I still purchase music monthly, and get into new stuff and read about music and like get exposed to new things, but it just wasn't as part of my daily life as it used to be. It hasn't been for a long time. I think part of it, again, like in high school, I would listen to music for hours just when I was at home, and then I would walk a lot as well, which was something I was doing to manage my anxiety without realizing it. But I just would go on walks with music, and that's when I started to learn how to scream and stuff too. I shouldn't say learn, because I wasn't actively trying to be good or anything. Not really. I was just like screaming along with music and singing along with music. I'm a horrible singer, by the way. But that was just part of this release that I felt, and it was a coping mechanism. So I would be listening to music for hours and hours and hours a day. Like, but I would listen to music hours and hours a day, either by walking or through being at home and just listening. It was just this daily thing, and it was a coping mechanism, and I was really passionate about what I was listening to, and would listen to things over and over and over again too. And part of that I feel like that's one of those things that the access to music through the internet, because at that time, like, for me, high school was like, well, we started high school in grade 7 in my small town. So I mean, that was late 90s, let's say, and I graduated mid 2000s, let's say. So during that time, I mean, I didn't have a computer at home. I had internet at school, but it wasn't like there were, like, Napster was, I don't even remember when Napster like happened, but I didn't really know what it was. Like, I didn't really get on any file sharing sites or anything like that until much later. I had a couple people burn CDs for me in high school, but even that was really rare for me. So anyway, I didn't have the access or the ease of access really to music at that time. But the thing about listening to a record or an album over and over again, and some people still do that now, they limit their consumption and what they get that's new. But I just, it's there at my fingertips. I don't like download music really without purchasing it. Like I buy like 99% of my music, and have done that for years now. But it's just the fact that all this stuff is there. There's new music everywhere for me to access and listen to and be exposed to, which is beautiful because of the ease of access. But also I find like, oh, this new band's like super sick, and then I listen to it for a little bit, and I just don't get in. I'm not as selective, I guess, either with some genres, especially metal. I'm just not as selective at all. So it's hard for me to really, really dig into an album. And there's some albums that were like real growers for me in high school that it took a little bit to grow. I mean, like, yeah, but I bought this album, and like, I didn't have much money. I wasn't buying albums all the time. So it was kind of just like, I bought this album. Like, I kind of need to give it a real chance. And some of those albums just ended up being really great because I gave them the opportunity to be great. And now I find my attention span is so much less tolerable than it used to be. And I think part of that is also, it's not the internet, it's how I use the internet. But anyway, yeah, so back then, like, I just didn't, I was reading like music magazines and stuff, but I wasn't able to just be like, oh, I'll just go on YouTube and then just check it out. And now that's what I can do. So then I like something on Facebook, I have like a list on my smartphone of just like albums I want to get or bands I want to get their music. So anyway, but with music, like, again, I would be so much more attached to it as well, and now I'm not as much, because I'm just not getting attached to those albums in the same way. Like, there's a lot of new artists that I really like, but I haven't spent enough time with them. And again, this is just how I function now, how I use the internet, how I've let the internet influence me, or ease of access with technology and smartphones and things. I mean, I guess smartphones are really revolving around the technology of the internet. Yeah, I just, like I said, that other day when I was at school, I just realized, whoa, like, I just had this experience I hadn't had for so long, where I allowed this, well, I shouldn't say I allowed, it just happened where whatever I put on, I wasn't putting it on for the purpose of pepping up my mood or whatever, but it just did, and it was just kind of coincidence, because lately when I listen to music, it is not for hours straight, not even close. It's like, oh, in the car from point A to point B, it's a shorter trip. I listen to podcasts a lot, and that's taken the place of music for me in a lot of situations where I would normally be listening to music. But, yeah, it wasn't, okay. It wasn't really purposeful when I did that, but it was amazing. I just felt like, wow, music just really cheered me up today, and I haven't been doing that. Like, I buy a new album, and like, yeah, I should listen to that and check that out a bit, but it's not like I sit there and listen. It's like, I get a song or two in before I get to my destination, and then usually I listen to the album maybe once, so I have it in my car for a couple days, and then I switch it out for a new one. Nothing really catches me the same way. Again, it's just me. I'm gonna start going up to the studio here, so bear with me while I try something new. But yeah, I had that experience. It was great, and then I started thinking about how I haven't, been purposefully pursuing those experiences, I guess is what I would call it. I don't know what else to call it. There we go. Let's try this. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about it a bit because, oh, hold on. Oop. Vlogging in public, we'll see what's up. Haven't really done this before. Okay, so yeah, music's just played that important role in my life. In that time, like I said, those were really formative years. Obviously, I've just always had this really strong connection with music since I was about 14, and then slowly, I shouldn't say maturity, but with years and like getting busy and adulting and stuff, it was just less. Like I said, I let it be less. It wasn't just like, life happens. I don't believe in that. Like it's, you choose your priorities and stuff, right? So, darkness. Yeah, so I let life kind of get in the way. But also I was still listening a lot when I was in Saskatoon after I moved there after high school, because I was walking a lot still. So I still didn't have like the purposeful, like, I'm going to listen to music in my room right now and just chill for hours. But I was walking all over the place and busing all over the place. So even when I had a car in university, I was still busing a lot because it was just easier. So I listened to music all the time. And then especially since I moved and not being in university anymore, for the past 2 years, I have not really been listening to music that much. But it's beautiful up here, but at night it definitely gets a little creepy from time to time. So anyway, let's plug this light in here, see what happens. Boom. It's a little bit of light. So, yeah, I just lost my place and don't remember what I was talking about now. But, yeah. Just something I noted, and like something I want to get back to. But, yeah, power of music. So it was just, again, a coping mechanism that I used a lot without really realizing it, I guess. And had this powerful connection to. And I always knew in high school that I wanted to be in a band. And I couldn't play an instrument. I didn't know at the time, like, I'll never play an instrument. This is why, because I suck at math, and the math side of my brain is horrible, and I can't learn or understand formulas really well. So, like, scales and understanding notes and whatever. I can physically play an instrument, whether it's piano or guitar or something, but I have to, like, have someone teach me basically like note by note and the pattern, and I can memorize it. But I can't learn it really. But anyway, so I kind of knew in high school, like, oh yeah, I'd love to be in a band. Like, it was just such a romantic idea of being in a band. And it wasn't really about an attention thing. I don't know. It was just about art, I guess, before I was doing visual art. And I started writing at the time. So I knew it would be in a vocalist, lyricist capacity that I would be in this band, this fabled band in my mind. But then in Saskatoon, I did get in some bands, and some of them for a couple of years, and it was amazing. So again, that music had power again in such a different way from a creative aspect. And again, then I really recognized that is a coping mechanism for me. It was a very physical thing for me, and aggressive, playing metal. And it was also like awesome just to have peers that were there, and you're all there, or usually all there for the same purpose, and you're just like broing out and stuff, and like that is helpful for managing anxiety and stuff too, and just like having a good time, and it was a blast. And so I realized that music had this power in this other way, that like creating it like for artistic purposes and stuff was just awesome, and it really fed this desire that I always had as a teen to do that. And I was like, wow, like I'm doing it, this is awesome. And it wasn't even about like gaining an audience and stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into it too, and a lot of frustration, and you're relying on people, whether it's your bandmates or people to record or people that are booking you and you have to play, or like an audience, or just there's so many other things that factor into it but I don't think that ever overwhelmed me to the point that I didn't love doing what I was doing. There were times where it definitely made it more frustrating, but I always was kind of, I think, like, I don't remember ever getting tired of it. Maybe, yeah, screw this. Like, I just pushed really hard and wanted to do that. But yeah, music has that, in that capacity too, a lot of power. As a creator of it, I guess, but like again, what I was so conscious and aware of that, but lately it was just the fact that like, man, as a consumer of music, as a listener, like yes, I do it, and that had been such a big part of my identity for so long, and I feel like I just lost that. And then again, I've always known like, yeah, music has this power, but I was more in the past, like I don't know, decade or so, or especially again the last 2 years, whatever, I've been aware of like, don't listen to this. For years, there's certain albums that I can't listen to anymore that I listened to at a really sad time in my life or something. And I don't like being sad. And in high school, I kind of switched from being, I would rather be angry than be sad, which is a whole other conversation we could have. And how that turned on me later in adulthood and more recent years too, with being too aggressive. But I really, yeah, I was really focused in the past however many years on, you know, music can change my mood, and I'm really aware of that, so I better be careful about what I listen to, and like, let's not listen to that, that's sad stuff, get that out of here, like, peace to you, sad stuff. But I wasn't really actively being like, yeah, I'm in a crappy mood, let's listen to some music to help me cheer up. That just wasn't part of what I was doing. It's always like, oh, let's just put something on. Unless it's with art, and because I'm going to talk about art and music now, I guess, a bit, I'm going to go right into the studio. And we'll hang out there for a bit. So, that's the wrong key. I don't know what you can see. Okay. Whoa. Yeah, music also, like, I can't say it's always played this huge role in my life, but I guess there's been like 3 major stages or events, or I don't know what to call it. Again, in my teen years, especially, it was just super, super powerful during high school, and the year I got out of high school too, like right after the grad, the year after that. And then it kind of lulled for a couple of years, I think, maybe. And then joining bands and stuff, then it became this new thing again. And then when I started creating visual art, or really getting into creating visual art in university when I was taking my BFA, music just started to influence a lot of my pieces, and just the feelings that I got, the stories they were telling, the poetry in them, just the other art in them influenced my art. And I started creating visual pieces based on the music that I was listening to and hearing, and the beauty that yeah, just inspired me on this other level. So it was a combination of life and music, and how I interpreted the music and how it made me feel, and visualizing that. And that's still a huge part of my art practice. It really is just a major part of what I do still. A lot of the abstract work that I make is directly influenced by music I'm listening to, or there's a line in a song that just hits me a certain way one day, and then a lot of these are incorporated in the titles, and like the titles of my pieces reference titles of songs, or lyrics of songs, or albums, or artists, or whatever. So it still really influences my work a lot today, and has been for years now. So that's another way that music's been so powerful to me. Again, like outside of when I was talking earlier, like I miss consuming music. I consume music still in a powerful way and in a passionate way, but it's always in an art context. Like when I'm biking, I'm usually listening to stuff that's like not super. I don't connect with it as much, I guess, because it's more of like a certain vibe that I want, or something that's just gonna, I don't know, motivate me and help me bike. And so it's usually like heavier stuff, and usually not deep stuff. But yeah, I still connect with music a lot through art, but it's just not in the same way that I was in high school, and not in this purposeful way of changing my mood that I realized the other day. I was like, wow, I could do that. I forgot music can do that. Holy crap. I just kept thinking like, oh yeah, music can make me sad. Don't listen to that. Rather than music can be awesome and really help me out and do positive, beautiful things for me and my mental health. And I know it could have that power for anybody. And part of it, I mean, a lot of people relate music and nostalgia and memory and stuff like that. And I find that's really powerful for me too. Like people always say like your sense of smell is like the biggest trigger for memory and stuff. But for me, it's really music. This is why I can't listen to some albums or songs or artists anymore because there's such an association built. That association is memory, right? It's this memory that I have with this person, and then it makes me feel that way now. I can't disassociate that song from that event or that person or that experience. And so for me, music is the most powerful thing when it comes to memory too, of recalling something, thinking, feeling it all over again. Um, yeah, it's just crazy powerful. More than visual images are to me, or a scent, or more than any other sense that I can think of. It's auditory for me to hear, specifically music, and associating that with experiences and people and time. Um, yeah, I was going to say earlier that I think creating music, um, part of the reason I did it was because I wanted people to feel the way I felt when listening to music and being able to give people relief and stuff. I really don't think that's what it is. I don't think it has anything to do with it, honestly. It's not like, oh, I just wanted to provide some service that was provided to me. I think, no, not even with writing, not even with visual art. I'm happy when people enjoy whatever art I create, for sure, but really it's all about me. So even creating music was about me and my release and what it did for me, more than what it could do for anyone else. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know why it's just struck me so hard when that happened, and I like purposely was like, or not purposely, but when I recognized what it was doing for me in that moment, I was like, whoa, it just blew my socks off again, which is weird. It used to be just such a part of my daily life. And I guess I took it for granted in this, it's just this weird thing that I just, like, I grew out of it, chose to grow out of it, didn't recognize it. Like, yeah, I took it for granted. I just wasn't thanking it for what it could do for me, or using it. Like, it's there all the time. I can use that to my benefit, and I don't, or not enough. Like, again, with art, it's still a part. I'm still very connected to it with art, and I still feel it a lot when I do listen to stuff at certain times. But it's so closely related to art, and then yeah, there's very few other times that I'm purposely listening to something. There are some times though, like in the company of some people, I put certain music on or whatever, and it really enhances that experience. But by myself, I'm just not using it the way that I used to, and it's just so powerful. It's a tool. It's, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird to think that I would fall. I don't think I fall out of love with music. I don't really think that is true. But again, I took it for granted. It's weird. But I feel like I'm rambling now. While I was thinking of this stuff, I think I'm gonna start reviewing albums and stuff too, because I think that's gonna force me to actually listen to music more and stuff. And yeah, I mentioned earlier, and I shouldn't need a reason to force myself to listen to music in that context, but I just think it'd be fun too to review albums, and post that stuff too. Old albums, new albums, doesn't matter, whatever. So when I talked about mindfulness and managing my anxiety and stuff like that, that when I got a record player, a big reason was because in the past 2 years, like I mentioned, I've really noticed I've been aware of my anxiety, been aware that, like, oh, I used to do all these things that I was using to cope, and now I just wasn't doing those things, and I could use those things again now that I recognized that it was helping me. And listening to music was one of those things, and being able to just listen. And so, like, a major reason when I got my record player was because, oh, I'm not gonna skip any songs. I'm gonna actually just listen to it, and I can just sit there. And I started to do that a couple times, like last year, and I don't really know if it helped yet, because I didn't get into a pattern of doing it. I need to do that again, to just get comfortable, just zoning out, just listening and listening, like without interruption and without, okay, settle down, but without interruption and without doing another task at the same time. So yeah, like I said, it can be just a tool, but it can be so many things, and how you use it. I'm looking just at my studio now. I'm surrounded by like posters of a lot of it is like musical artists and stuff, in certain areas, anyways. That just or just yeah, just yeah. There's music all over the place in here, and yeah, Kurt's over there and MJ and stuff, but yeah, it's silly to lose that. So anyway, I'm just going all over the place here. I'm going off the rails. I wanted to say that because I've thought of like, oh, maybe I'll do some reviews and stuff like that. That would be fun, and not just music. I'll just review anything I feel like at the time. But what role does music play in your life right now? What role does music play in your life right now? And when do you think, answer either or. When do you think music played the biggest role in your life? Like I mentioned, I feel like there's been three kind of different times where music has played this big role in my life in three different ways. So now I still feel like I'm in this, like, it plays a huge role in my art, like more than anything. It influences that and makes my art making wonderful. Like I can't make music or can't make art without music, really. Like it's incredibly difficult. I rely on it so much, and it really adds and enriches my experience and thus the art that I make. They're so closely tied together. Even if the piece is not being influenced by the music directly with the theme or the lyrics or anything, it influences my movements and the colors I use and everything. Even if the piece is about something else that has nothing to do with the music. I mean, if it was inspired by a poem or a book or some topic, the music still aids in creating the piece. So how does music play a role in your life? That is the question. The other thing that I really wanted to bring up that I've been thinking about since starting the channel, I wanted to bring up the fact that, like, I wish I could share music with you in this different way, and that's why I want to do these reviews and stuff. I want to share music. Has been so important to me for so long, and it's like waxed and waned and stuff that we've talked about a little bit, but it's been so important that it sucks that I can't share it in the way that I want because of YouTube, because of copyright and all this other stuff. Like, I can't just, when I'm creating a piece, I can't have the music in the video. And this is one reason why I speed it up 2 times as fast. One, I mean, it makes sense for a time thing, that it's not in real time, but it's sped up twice the speed most of the time. But it's also because I end up putting other music in there, royalty-free, copyright-free music. Luckily, some of it's from local artists that have given me the chance to do that. An Ant and an Adam and Touching God so far. And then other stuff that I found that was just royalty-free, whatever, generic music that is still good, but I need to find more. But yeah, YouTube just, it has this restriction where I would love to just have you listen to what I'm listening to when I make the piece. So even on Instagram and Facebook, when we go live, when I go live, or when, Laura Lee and I would go live or whatever, at some points it catches the music and it stops the live feed. And sometimes it just won't let me post the video because it recognizes the music. So, I mean, live is one of the only ways you get to, like, have that real-time experience with me. So I should go live more often. I think that doing this is kind of taking the place of going live, but I mean, there's no reason I can't go live more often. So I definitely should do that. I just need to find a good setup and just kind of keep it. And yeah, I just need to work on that. But that's one of those things too. I would like to share my musical interests and things with you. So I have to find a different way to do it rather than just you're listening to what I'm listening to. Because whether it's in the car, whether it's in the studio, you can't. Like, legally or whatever, you can't. Otherwise, I'm going to get flagged and copyright strikes and all that stuff with YouTube. That's not fun. So, yeah, I'll find a way to do that through reviews, and maybe I'll put in the videos of the art making process, like, this is what I'm listening to right now as I make this. But then it's weird because you're listening to something else and I'm listening to something. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But that's a thing that's been on my mind since starting this project as well, is that I wish I could share that part of me so much more, because it's very important to my process. But that's my conversation about music. yeah, that's my conversation I wanted to have about the power of music right now in those different areas, and how they've affected my life and enriched my life, and things like that, and why I avoid sometimes listening to certain things, because they've had that power to bring me down, and I've always recognized that, but I've forgotten that it has the power to really lift me up too. And that's so silly to take that for granted, and to kind of forget that. So hopefully you don't forget that.